All right, and we're back. Today we are going to be looking at Chapter 13.3, The War with Mexico. And if you look up on your screen right now, you're going to see that you will need to read pages 433 to 437. We're also going to be looking closely at the idea, the concept of manifest destiny. Our learning objective today: I will define manifest destiny and explain how the United States became a nation which stretches all the way across the continent. In my haste, I put a second D at the end of that. That's not how you spell United. My mistake. All right, so let's do a little bit of review. So, what we know: thousands of adventurers and pioneers are following the trails west to settle on new land and find their fortunes. We talked about that in chapters 13.1 and 13.2. Review those if you want a little bit more information. Conflicts between American settlers and the government of Mexico led to a revolt, and then Texas winning its independence from Mexico in 1836. Texas calls itself the Lone Star Republic, and you got to remember, at this time it is an independent nation. It is no longer part of Mexico, and it is not yet part of the United States. So now we are going to learn that victory in a war with Mexico allowed the United States to expand the nation across the continent, meaning from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. And the United States accomplishes their manifest destiny. All right, so this is a little bit of a humorous, I guess, explanation of manifest destiny. So let's go through these cartoons together. These guys kind of look like some of you, I think. So this guy says, "Hey, Henry, what do you think about the whole manifest destiny idea?" Henry says, "Well, first of all, what is manifest destiny?" Manifest destiny is the belief that the U.S. should expand all across North America. Looks like he's thinking about it. "Oh, that's right. I think this is a great idea. The West is a great opportunity for success." "Oh, I totally agree with you. It would also bring in more land for farming, and it would be a great way to spread our culture." "That is so true," says this guy over here. "I think that it would also open up new trade routes and we could explore new land." "Oh, thank you for sharing your opinion with me. Have a great day." So there's a little bit of an introduction to manifest destiny. So here's some more for you. What is manifest destiny? Well, it was supported by President James K. Polk. A lot of people call him the most important president that nobody's ever heard of. So right here, this is a linked video. I want you to watch this in the slides that I'm going to share with you in Google Classroom. So manifest destiny was the belief that the United States was meant to expand from coast to coast. Here's we can break it down into its component parts. Manifest means clear or obvious, and destiny is events that will necessarily happen in the future. So you get it's very clear that this is going to happen. It's a manifest destiny that we will spread from Atlantic to Pacific. Well, many Americans support the idea of manifest destiny. So land in the West held a lot of promise for Americans. We already know that a lot have been heading out on those various trails. They've been heading west. American settlers viewed that land as unoccupied. Yeah, there's a little catch there to that idea. It was populated by Native Americans and Mexicans. All right, so that shows you that as Americans viewed that as unoccupied land, even though there were two separate cultures that lived in those areas. It kind of tells you what the Americans or the people that supported Manifest Destiny really thought about Native Americans and Mexicans. So Americans worried about other countries also claiming that land. If somebody was going to claim that land, Americans thought, well, we better have it rather than any other country that we might find conflict with. So Oregon Territory, if you look over this map on the right, Oregon Territory is this area. It was shared by the British and the United States. It now encompasses land that would be about, here would be the line that would separate Washington State, and this would be Oregon, and these are areas that are now part of Idaho right here. So Pacific Northwest, we might say. So the United States, like I said, shared the Oregon Territory with Britain at this time, and as part of the Manifest Destiny, James K. Polk believed gaining control of the Oregon Territory necessary. So we're going to have a famous slogan that he uses in his presidential campaign in 1844. This parallel, meaning line of latitude up here, is 5940. So Polk wanted all of this land right here. So he kind of suggested in his campaign that he would be willing to fight the British for control of this land. So he would say 5440 or fight. Either that's going to be where we are or we're going to fight over it. So people that were excited about the idea of manifest destiny and expanding westward maybe thought this was a good idea. But rather than fight for all of Oregon Territory, James K. Polk decided to settle for half the territory. So in 1846, the United States and Great Britain agreed to divide the territory at the 49th parallel. I'm tracing it right here with my pointer here. That should look like a very familiar line to you because that is the current border that we share with Canada right now. So that's how that border became part of our map. There's a link here I want you to take a look at when you go through these slides on your own. So maybe it was a good thing that we didn't go to war with Britain at this time because we were having more trouble with Mexico in the Southwest. So in 1835, that should say 1845, Texas was admitted to the United States as a slave state, despite the North objecting strongly. Remember, the North, there was a great interest in limiting the spread of slavery. We'd already had that controversy in 1820 with the Missouri Compromise. Now Texas has come in as a slave state, threatening that balance between slave and free states. So Mexico still claimed Texas belonged to their country. Mexico viewed the annexation, which is what we call the addition of Texas to the Union, as an act of war. There's a link here I need you to watch. So, making this problem even worse, Texas and Mexico could not agree on their border. So Texas believed the Rio Grande was their southern border. I'm going to trace the Rio Grande right here. You can see it. And you'll notice that is the current border of Texas and Mexico right here. And that river ends up going up into New Mexico right there, the state of New Mexico. Mexico believed that the Nueces River was the official border. That is over here. So it's the other side of this kind of candy-striped area right here. That had been the traditional border of the state of Texas when it was part of Mexico and when it was the Texas Republic too. So there's this dispute. America and the Texans think this should be the border, and Mexico thinks this should be the southern border of Texas. So the difference there is hundreds of miles from this border to this border, and then thousands of square miles in this area. So that was a significant difference in how they viewed the borders. So Mexico said they're going to fight to defend their claim to the disputed areas. President Polk offered Mexico $30 million for Texas, California, and New Mexico. Remember, we purchased a lot of land not long before this in 1803 from French. We called that the Louisiana Territory. And the act of obtaining that for the United States was called the Louisiana Purchase. Mexico flat out turned down President Polk's offer, though. He said, no dice. We're not selling. And you can see right here, this is incredible to me to see these maps this time. Mexico's still a big country. But look how huge it is. This is such an enormous part of the United States right here. This is a major, major expanse of land right here. Mexico is a really big country. So the United States ordered General Zachary Taylor, that is future President Zachary Taylor, although he won't be president for very long, to station 3,500 troops on the north bank of the Rio Grande River. So already in that disputed zone, and since he's on the bank of the Rio Grande River, he's very close to what we now agree is Mexican territory. On April 25th, 1846, a Mexican unit crossed the Rio Grande River and ambushed an American patrol. 2 days later, the war with Mexico started. So was this a popular war like some wars have been in the past? Absolutely not. Americans were divided on it. Southerners really wanted this territory to expand because they would be able, since it's below the southern border of Missouri over here, they would be able to expand slavery into this area. They were excited about that. Northerners did not want the expansion of slavery. Here's a linked video I want you to take a look at. There will be questions on these videos at the end of this presentation. So we're going to go over this war here in the next couple slides. So there were some battles and revolts during the war. General Stephen Kearny took New Mexico territory without firing a shot. And then he went out to California. Americans in Northern California staged a revolt called the Bear Flag Revolt, declaring independence from Mexico. And within 2 weeks, the U.S. controlled all of California from Mexico. So you see that's still the state flag of California now with that cool grizzly bear on it. All right, so the defeat of Mexico proved to be a difficult one. So American forces invaded Mexico from two directions. Taylor came down from the north right here. And you can't really see it on this map down here. There's a city called Veracruz on the Gulf of Mexico, and another general named Winfield Scott, whose nickname was Old Fuss and Feathers. By the way, this was the era of great nicknames. Zachary Taylor was Old Rough and Ready. General Scott brought his troops in from the coast and up the Mexican heartland to Mexico City. In a funny echo of the past, he actually kind of retraced the route of Hernando Cortez from centuries earlier. You remember Cortez, not a great guy. So General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna retreated from Buena Vista after 2 days of bloody fighting, and then Mexico City itself fell in 1847, and the war was over. So now this is a really great map. This is how you can tell the growth of the United States from 1783 all the way until 1853. So we get this territory. These are the original colonies. We get these at the end of the Revolutionary War, including the Northwest Territories where we live. Louisiana Purchase comes after that. We get Texas annexation. We get the Mexican cession. We'll talk about what that means in a second. And Oregon country. And we now go coast to coast like that. Manifest destiny has been realized. So what were the results, impacts, and war of the war, the victory? Well, we're going to have a strained relationship, meaning a difficult or challenging relationship between Mexico and the United States. Manifest destiny, like I said on the previous slide, has been realized. We have the expansion of the nation from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. So the treaty that ended this war was called the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And what it stated was that Texas was now part of the United States. Mexico would recognize that. The Rio Grande down here, I'm tracing it with the pointer, that would be the border between the two nations. And Mexico would give up a vast or huge area of land, which came to be known as the Mexican cession. It's this kind of reddish area on here. So it's all or part of several states that we have now in the United States. California, Nevada, we have Utah, a little bit of Wyoming here. There's Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. And this purchase down here came a little bit later in the 1850s. That is called a Gadsden Purchase. That was purchased from Mexico, and it was an area that was reserved for building a transcontinental railroad in the southern part of the country. So that same treaty, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, also stated that the United States would protect 80,000 Mexicans living in Texas and Mexican cession territory. And in 1853, Mexico sold, I just told you this, one last strip of land, the Gadsden Purchase. Now it's green on this sheet, lime green to be exact, to the U.S. for $10 million. All right, that is our look at Manifest Destiny and the Mexican-American War. I want you to follow this link to your Google form to show what you know. All right, be cool.